Since the 90s, Pokemon games have evolved and innovated, but have suffered from many growing pains despite their title of #1 grossing media franchise in the world. 2D to 3D, Game Boy to home console. These games have continued to adapt. And even though Scarlet and Violet introduced the first open world Pokemon region, somehow it looked and performed worse than open world games built a decade earlier. What's up everyone, it's Dusty Go-Goat. Welcome back to my headcanon. As the Pokemon Company moves into Generation 10, I've got a lot of wishes. I think I've got a lot of solutions. The 10th generation of Pokemon is symbolic and currently expected to release on the 30th anniversary of the entire Pokemon franchise. This has to be a big deal. They have to come out swinging and regain public trust. Here's a conversation I had with LoreKeeperToby on my podcast, Hidden Power.
When we zoom out away from the DLC, we realize that 2024 and 2025 are build up to that 30th anniversary and probably Gen 10. This is Pokemon's last huge anniversary until like the 50th at this point.
Yeah.
There is so much importance on that date and on whatever that game is. And I think that whatever gets revealed at Pokemon Day next year, whether it's nothing or whether it's a whole string of things, all of it is within the context of that date. I think it's all about how do we now gear people up ready, get them excited, make Pokemon a huge kind of cultural moment, beyond what just an ordinary game release.
Give us another Post Malone concert.
I think they're just kind of like, they've got every option to play with. They can do Ilka remakes, they can do Legends, they could do Let's Go if they wanted, they can do re-releases of old games, they can do more DLC, they could do more DLC for Legends Arceus. Like, what's their oyster?
Like, what would be deserving of that though? Because I feel like in a lot of ways it's like, I love Johto, but how important is that really for the series, right? I love Unova.
Very important. It's
important
Pokemania. It's part of the Pokemania age.
It's also like we think the OG is Kanto, but if you think about it, the OG is really Kanto and Johto, because that was
that's
plan,
basically what you just said. Yeah. It's like that is Pokemania, both of them.
Yeah.
Well, and also Johto. I mean, and Johto quite literally has Kanto in it, so that alone is reason enough for Game Freak to go, boom, we got to put Kanto in.
What I want though is like a shakeup of the franchise, which I don't have any confidence in that anymore. I'm like, I don't think
if that's gonna happen, I think that will be after Gen 10. It might be Gen 10, but like
something as big as like an open world game. We already have that. An MMO game, right? Where it's like kind of what Lumi was saying, where it's like you go somewhere and you just, it's like, what if this is something I was thinking about earlier. Pokemon Home being backwards compatible now completely blurs the lines of what a generation really is.
Yeah.
Like a generation now is like a console, like a Switch, like any game that's on a Switch is that current generation. So what if Generation 10, they introduce a game where every 2 years, let's say, they add on like a new region, something exploratory like that, right?
The next, that's the other context that's happening is we are coming to the end of probably the Switch's, main lifespan.
Yeah.
They will be developing with that in mind as to what's coming out next. I really think that, and also you got to think about this company going, okay, what is the 50-year plan? We've gone for 20, 25, 30 years. We've been a very successful company doing the same thing over and over and over again. Will that kind of routine continue to be successful for another 30 years?
Yeah.
Or will actually by generation 15, 16, are people going to be so disenfranchised if we keep doing the same thing? I think they've really rinsed this formula for a lot. And it might be the case that actually there's still a lot of longevity in that, but they might go, do you know what? We need to use that 30th anniversary, that Generation 10, that new like Nintendo console as an opportunity to set up what the future of Pokemon's going to be for the next like 20 years. Like they're going to be thinking in that scale, I hope.
I think so. I agree.
Yeah.
I think they have to if they want to continue to survive. I think that's just how it is.
I think it'd be a really interesting solution if the Generation 10 game was, just your classic Pokemon game, but then instead of immediate DLC, maybe they have these other companies in the interim. They have these other companies produce like more experimental games, whether they're BDSP or 2D, whatever. And then maybe like, let's say 2 years later, not 3 years, but 2 years later after the main series Gen 10 game, They give us another game, and it's not Generation 11, but it's like another region that we could go to as post-game for Gen 10, or because it's a DLC, you start your adventure in Generation 10, whatever region that is. The first gym you choose could be in that new area, in that new region that came 2 years later. So basically now you have this like, over the course of maybe like 6 years, you have this like ever evolving region. It's the same engine. They can continue to like fix it. Games can really be, I always go back to Skyrim. Like I played that game so many times in so many different fashions. Every time you play it, there's a new way to play it. And what I miss in Pokemon games is the replayability. Again, going back to everything being convenient, there's no reason to reset my game and like play through it again, right? It's just like, I mean, you can do it obviously, but
in fact, it's de-incentivized
It
because
is.
the opening of those games are so, even Legends Arceus, which is my favorite, I think the opening of Pokemon games nowadays are friggin' criminal. Like,
Sun and Moon is like,
it's like 2 hours. Yeah, really. It's awful. But like, how much fun would it be? And this is why I'm like, this would be the coolest thing in the world. If I could start up a Kanto game and then play it through it, but then like go to Johto after. If I were to boot up the Gen 10 game and then go to the other region first, and then you would, to also do this, you would also have to make it where those, 9 to 16 gyms are scaling, right? They have to like now not be, level 10 Pokemon, level 20 Pokemon, level 30. But to me, how could it be any different than DLC? That's how I'm looking at it. Because when we're gonna get DLC at the end of the year, and if you do start a new game, you're gonna be able to go to the DLC first.
With all these games like Skyrim, Fallout, Zelda to a degree, like there's always the early Vault, or with Skyrim there's the early Attack on Helgen, and trying to keep that bit relatively short. The moment it's over, do what you want. I really think Pokemon does that and has managed to do that, in that like once you get to Mesagoza you can do that, but it's that first portion in my mind is just, it's not fun to engage with.
I would have just loved level scaling. I don't want to go into like a big
level scaling wasn't for me,
but just that, if that was level scaled, then it would make all the difference. Then I would be like, yes, everyone should be able to go do whatever you want.
I actually am anti level scaling,
really
controversially so, and that is on the basis that maybe there's still a way of handling it, but if your Pokemon are level 10 and the game goes, okay, you're going to the first gym, your Pokemon are level 10, we want to give you a little bit of challenge, so they're going to make them level 12, right? And that doesn't matter which gym you've done, which gym you come up to, it's going to be a level 12 Pokemon. And now you do that, and you go to your next gym, and your Pokemon are level 20, and they go, I want to give you a little bit of challenge, so this is your second gym. They're like level 22, 23. What that means is that Game Freak is deciding the difficulty of these gyms. And I actually think that's a bad thing. Because if they decide...
anyways, aren't they?
No, because ultimately you can decide to go to a later gym and have a harder time on that one first, And I actually think that's better that you have the choice of difficulty than Game Freak. Because if Game Freak decide that the correct level of difficulty for each gym is about 3 or 4 levels higher than wherever you are, then you are all, like, every battle is the same. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I get what you mean.
I think the solution is to have a bottom, have like a level minimum. Then, if you were to beat 3 gyms, right, in any order, if they're like the 8th, you beat the 8, 7, 6 gym, right? That's 3 gym badges now you have. I feel like the rest of the badges, when you go on, let's say then you go to gym number 1, that should be probably scaled up to wherever gym 4 would be, because that would be the 4th badge. Only for those lower ones, the ones that are like
so maybe the scaling is not based on the level of your Pokemon, it's based on the number of badges, and so you still have the choice of, do I bring in lower level Pokemon just to make it a bit more difficult for myself?
I think that's the thing for me. It's like, yes, I agree with you. I think it's kind of fun to be like, let's do the hard thing first. That's like a fun challenge, right? But then where it gets boring is that if that's
gonna
go
back and do the hard stuff eventually.
You got to do all the easy stuff now, which is it's just a chore.
And you're gonna steamroll it.
Yeah.
My issue is I want neither. I don't want the hard thing first and the easy thing later. I want a decent level of challenge throughout the game.
Maybe that's something.
I mean, that's really what we're talking about in the end. It's just how hard it is, like how to challenge.
Yeah.
I think
Yep.
scaling is also like super fun though. Here's Brock's gym at every gym level. When you have 1 badge, 2 badges, 3 badges, and you get to see like the progression of their team. And then all of a sudden, that's another thing where an open world Pokemon game makes a lot of sense because you actually get to experience the game differently every time you play it. Right? There needs to be more of those things where your unique experience is a unique experience. And I feel like that shouldn't even be difficult to do. It's just like. That's like 8. You create 8 trainers, and then depending on the qualifier, that's what trainer you fight. It's Brock at gym level 6.
Whatever and again, maybe the concept of generations will be out the window, but like by the time we get to 2030 and whatever version of generation, 11 exists, like by that point we'll know pretty well whether like Pokemon is like doubling down and they're like, this is the thing, this is the routine that has worked for us and will continue to work, or whether they're trying out new stuff and actually they've got some big 20-year plan for the like new rebooted world of Pokemon that and I think Gen 10 is a wonderful hinge point because it's the point where you revisit Gen 5 and you say, wow, look at where we were halfway along. Here's where we are now. Look how this is the best of Sprite World and this is the best of 3D World.
Yeah.
Now's the time to try it together. I don't know.
Wonderful. You're still listening. I appreciate you watching. In the description, there's a link to subscribe to the podcast. You can also subscribe to my channel, Dusty Go Goat. Have a great day. Arceus bless.